The San Francisco 49ers travel to St. Louis to face the Rams on Thursday Night Football. San Francisco is currently installed as a 3.5-point favorite on BETDAQ. 42 is the total in this game. This is a strange game, a little bit of a tough game to call because both these teams are coming off of blowout losses, and both these teams sit at 1-2, a little bit disappointing right now. This is a real test to me, not of San Francisco bettors, but of St. Louis Rams bettors and believers. If you were a Rams believer coming into the season, which I was, I thought the Rams were a dark horse playoff contender in the NFC. If that's the way you felt, this is really a test now because the Rams have not played well this season. Even in the only game they won, they did not play well. They had to come from behind to beat the Arizona Cardinals. The Rams 0-3 against the number this season. Facing the San Francisco 49ers, only a 3.5-point underdog. Now, I think people still trust San Francisco, even though the 2 blowout losses in a row surprise everybody. Well, especially last week's loss. The Week 2 blowout loss on the road in Seattle, that's understandable. The Seahawks, the best home team in the NFL, one of the best teams in the NFL, period, and they did the same thing to San Francisco the last time the 49ers had gone up there in December. But everybody was stunned at last week's game. The Indianapolis Colts taking it to the 49ers in San Francisco. Colts winning that game 27-7. 49ers were a 10-point favorite in that game, so very puzzling result there. Still, I think most bettors are willing to write that off as a fluke or somewhat of a fluke. Look, we've seen what the 49ers can do the last couple of years under Jim Harbaugh. We saw them advance to the Super Bowl last season. Just 2 weeks ago, we saw them beat a very good Green Bay Packers team, saw Colin Kaepernick throw for over 400 yards, so we know the 49ers can play at a championship level. We know that's not far off. However, we don't know that about the St. Louis Rams. Those people who were thinking the Rams might take that next step forward this year were just projecting that that may happen. It wasn't based on what we saw last year. Last year, the Rams were a solid team. They were good to their bettors. They played good defense. They struggled on offense. Now, they did play well against San Francisco. The Rams beat the Niners once last year, and they played them to a tie in San Francisco. And as a matter of fact, the Rams are 5-1 against the spread the last 6 times they have played the Niners. So clearly, they're going to be heading into this matchup with a lot of confidence. There's going to be no intimidation factor here. The Rams probably believe they're the better team, and based on recent history, it's tough to argue with them, or at least based on these teams' recent games against each other, tough to argue with the Rams thinking they're the better team here. However, nearly everybody else, meaning NFL bettors, casual NFL fans, thinks the 49ers are the better team. And so that's why you see the 49ers as a short road favorite here. I think a lot of people are going to be thinking, hey, San Francisco is going to be extra motivated for this game after a couple of really ugly performances and after the way the Rams played them tough last year. But again, the Rams should be just as motivated. The Rams are also coming off a blowout loss last week. The Rams are also at a very disappointing point at 1-2. They didn't hope to be 1-2 through 3 games. So why would anyone think the 49ers would be any more motivated than the Rams? That's silly. People just think because the 49ers are a better team than the Rams, that their motivation, that they can play at a higher level, so somehow their motivation has greater value. I don't really buy all that. I think that motivation and things like that, once it's kicked off and these guys are playing the game, is that really crossing their mind? These guys are going to be playing their hardest. This is primetime Thursday night football. The NFL watching world will be watching this game. So I think things like that are a little overblown, yet things like that definitely must be considered because all those things go into how the line gets set. You know, and I know the line is set based on perception, based on what odds makers think the public perception of these two teams are. And so that is why this line is San Francisco minus 3.5. Now, the 49ers might win this game and win it easily. And as I said, I was a Rams believer heading into the season, so maybe I'm a little prejudiced here, but I have a feeling that St. Louis, might be the right play on Thursday night. Listen, San Francisco is really, really banged up. Vernon Davis, tight end, missed the game last week, questionable for this game with a hamstring injury. Patrick Willis, their best player on defense, had to leave last week's game with a groin injury. He's also questionable for this game. And Aldon Smith, one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, will not be playing for the next several games as he deals with a substance abuse problem. So the Niners are shorthanded. They've been really bad on offense the last 2 weeks. I mean, after throwing for 412 yards in Week 1, Colin Kaepernick has passed for a combined 277 yards over the last 2 weeks. and he's only led the 49ers offense to a combined 10 points. Now, I remember the San Francisco-St. Louis game last year in St. Louis. The one the Rams won. It was a low-scoring game right till the end. Rams rookie cornerback Janoris Jenkins scored a defensive touchdown, kind of got things turned around. Colin Kaepernick did not play well at all in that game. Jeff Fisher, a defensive mastermind, I have a feeling he's got a pretty good idea how to contain Kaepernick, and we've seen the last couple of weeks there are defenses that can contain and control Colin Kaepernick. Remember, Kaepernick's an extremely young QB, only has a handful of starts in his career, and he doesn't have much in terms of pass-catching weapons right now. His favorite receiver, Michael Crabtree, obviously out for the season after suffering a bad luck injury in the preseason. As we mentioned, Vernon Davis might not be playing in this game. Anquan Bolden, Kaepernick showed in week 1 that he's very comfortable with Bolden, but at this point in Bolden's career, he doesn't have enough speed to get open very often. So I'm not sure this San Francisco offense is very good at all right now. And the Rams, even though they've had some trouble on defense this season, they were good last year. This is the same personnel. I just have a hard time believing that this is going to continue to be the 26th ranked defense in the NFL based on what we saw last year, based on who their coach is, based on what the personnel is like, especially in the front seven. And I like their cornerbacks, Cortland Finnegan and Janoris Jenkins. So I do lean towards the Rams as 3.5-point underdogs here on Thursday Night Football. Again, it would definitely take a leap of faith to back the Rams after what we've seen out of this team really throughout the season. An ugly Week 1 win over the Arizona Cardinals, and their last 2 games they've fallen 21 points behind in both games, almost came back against the Falcons. They were just blown out last week. Still, I think that leap of faith is probably the best move here. I think the Rams are a good play as 3.5-point underdogs on Thursday night.